Episode 238 Above Ground Podcast, The Reissues, Putting It All Together.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Coming at you live with real conversations about mental health from the perspective. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now your hosts, TPP and Will Foley.
Hey everybody, TPP here. Just quick note, as soon as these episodes for the DBT sessions ends, sadly, that will be the end of Above Ground Podcast. But just as every chapter ends, a new one begins. TPP will be starting a new mental health podcast called Pieces to Wellness. And Pieces to Wellness will be airing very soon, so stay on the lookout. Keep an eye out for Pieces to Wellness. And thank you for listening.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 238, the finale of DBT and the finale of Above Ground Podcast. I'm going to let the episode go, and then I'll check back in with you at the end, all right? So here it is, episode 238, Putting It All Together, the finale of Dialectical Behavioral Therapy.
Are you ready to lace up your boots, throw up your horns, and jump into the pit? Then let's stomp the stigmas of mental illness. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now, Will Foley and Timothy Patrick.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the
Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve anyone below.
That is very true.
How are you doing this week, Timothy?
I am okay. I am very well, actually.
Very
How are
well.
you? How are you, Will?
You know, we're on the roller coaster that just got hooked up to the chain, and it's approaching the top of the ramp. So lumens are up a little bit this week. You know,
okay,
lumens
good.
might have gone from 3.6 last week to maybe 5.8. Every episode we do, I feel a little bit better.
Good. Well, that's a good thing. And how are you all doing out there in podcast land? We are very appreciative of you all tuning in. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
And they're far down in there. Really far.
Remember, if you are listening on Apple products, please subscribe, like, throw us some stars, and if you're really feeling frisky, you can leave us a review.
Yeah, you can leave us a review like this review from Wannabe Life, and that was left on September 10th, 2019, and it says, "Great show, 5 stars. Will and Tim are great. The podcast is an amazing point of view." So thank you, Wannabe Life. We appreciate you listening. Thank you very much. And
we hope that you continue to tune in.
Yes, and keep sending us your reviews. Keep throwing us some stars, man. There's nothing like the stars. And actually, tonight is our wrap-up of
DBT.
That's right, Dialectical Behavior Therapy. We are going to wrap up our series on that tonight. Our last episodes were very well received about DBT. A lot of people weren't familiar with it, that either haven't gone through therapy or have been through an outpatient program. And we're just here to talk about this stuff because there are tools out there for you to use. If you have good insurance companies will tell you about some of this stuff.
And even if you don't have any insurance, hopefully you have internet and you can get on and you can research this stuff yourself. And, just do a lookup of dialectical behavior therapy. There's also CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy.
Yes, which I've had more experience with myself, but it's actually related anyway.
And read up on it and learn these skills. Further your education on these different modules. And once you do, try and put them into motion.
Right, as Tony Robbins said, knowledge is only potential power because you have to put what you learn into practice.
Correct.
So you can't play a guitar if you just stare at it in the corner. You got to actually pick it up and make noise.
So what? Hopefully people remember the 4 modules. Do you remember the 4 modules, Will?
Let me see if I always get this wrong. So let's see. Distress tolerance.
Yep.
Emotional regulation.
Yep.
Mindfulness.
Correct.
And I failed that quiz.
Interpersonal effectiveness.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So a real quick, brief overview on these. Distress tolerance will help you cope better with painful events by building up your resiliency and giving you new ways to soften the effects of upsetting circumstances. Emotional regulation skills will help you recognize more clearly what you feel and then observe each emotion without getting overwhelmed by it. The goal is to modulate your feelings without behaving in reactive or destructive negative ways.
Yeah, respond, not react.
So mindfulness. Mindfulness will help you experience more fully the present moment while focusing less on painful experiences from the past or frightening possibilities in the future. Mindfulness will also give you tools to overcome habitual negative judgments about yourself and about others. Interpersonal effectiveness can give you new tools to express your beliefs and needs, set limits, and negotiate solutions to problems, all while protecting your relationships and treating others with respect. So we got a lot of information from the book itself, the Dialectical Behavior Therapy book. It's a therapy skills workbook. And I'm going to read a little passage from this workbook right now. This book is structured to make learning easier. Each of the key skills is covered in 2 chapters, basic and advanced, except for mindfulness, which has a 3rd, more advanced chapter. Because mindfulness is just, I feel like mindfulness is just so huge. It's like law. You get lost in it, and it's just everywhere. And there's little nooks and crannies that you got to figure out and explore. But anyways, with that being said, these skills will help teach necessary concepts, identify components of new skills, and lead you through initial steps for acquiring skills. The advanced skill chapter will take you through remaining components of the skill, building level by level. So it's kind of like putting it all together, kind of like what we're doing. This is our final chapter, so to speak, on DBT, and we're trying to put it all together for you to help you recognize these skills. And hopefully we made some of the definitions easy to learn, and maybe you'll continue some of these to use some of these techniques, and maybe even continue to educate yourself on them so you can pick ones that work best for you and make a commitment to them and continue on your path to your higher self.
I noticed that there's a lot of talk about the senses in these, because we talked a lot about in the last episode about the senses and the 5 senses. So I'm wondering if maybe, like, if obviously if you've never started a process of the self-work, whether it be through therapy or outpatient services or whether it's through your spiritual guide, guidance counselor in your, in your church or wherever you go. I'm wondering, it's very hard. You can get very overwhelmed by this very, very quickly. So start with just one thing for one sense to try to alleviate some of your suffering. Because suffering is optional, but it's very easy to get stuck in a loop of suffering, because suffering, and you start thinking about it, begets more suffering.
So are you saying, like, for the self-soothing, like, pick, like, taste or pick smell?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
pick
saying,
hearing, pick one thing and
pick one thing
and
for
work on
each
that.
sense.
Sure.
Like, if you're like we talked about looking at candles, and there was something that I read recently about zoning out, and zoning out is actually a natural state that you should be in. And if you can't zone out, then you have to learn how to zone out, because zoning out will actually help you relax your brain. And one of the best ways to do that is to stare at a candle at the very bottom of the candle. You stare at the dark part of the candle, that where the flame is, and that might be the first thing you do for looking at something. And then you could put your cans on or your earbuds in and put some meditation music on, or one great thing. And I did not realize how therapeutic percussion was. And then as I get further into Denise Linn's book, Kindling the Native Spirit, there's a lot of history and a lot of actual research about percussive music, and especially from which is goes throughout traditions. As we know, at the Peace Pagoda in Petersburg, New York, Tim and I have been there separately. We haven't been there together yet. We haven't made it for our field trip yet. Is a wonderful Buddhist nun who is amazing. She is the warmest person I could ever meet. I showed up for a 6 a.m. service at 5 a.m. one day because the website was not accurate, and I was the only one there, and it was the most intense thing I've ever experienced. But she chants and you play a drum, and she gives you this drum, and all I could think about was I was out of time and out of sync with her. And when I mentioned this to her, she invited me in for coffee following service, and we had a nice long chat, and she filled me with so much peace and love that
that's pretty awesome.
You can't repay things like that. And I remember saying to her that I felt so self-conscious because I messed up a few times where my mind would start to lapse and I would get off on rhythm. And I've always said that I'm the whitest white man there is when it comes to rhythm. I just can't keep a beat, man. But she was like, oh no. And she like really put me at ease afterwards, because the self-conscious mind gets all crazy, man. Gets crazy.
Crazy. You got to stay in that middle mind, you know?
Yeah, don't let the monkey mind run wild.
No.
Because it'll run roughshod all over you.
Yeah. So a couple things I just want to touch on. Overall, improve the moment. You know, you may not be able to improve your day, but, you know, if you can improve the moment that you're in, and by doing any of these skills, the little things, you know, you could be standing in line or sitting in traffic and just do some neck rolls. Turn your favorite song on the radio and turn it up. Whatever it works for you, you know, you have to figure that out and put it into motion and use it and continually use it. You know, I actually recently had I used this a lot, but I recently had told my therapist this and she liked it, so it kind of gave me a little bit of a boost. But the way I see it is, when you're in your car and your check engine light comes on, do you kind of just ignore it and just keep driving and go, whatever? Or do you go take care of it? Maybe go get it looked at. Maybe you need the oil change. Maybe, you need a new air filter. Maybe it's time to put, some transmission fluid in or something. The point is, you need to continuously care for your car. But the point I'm trying to make is you need to continuously care for yourself and your body. Not only your body, but your mind. And stay on these topics, stay on these skills and techniques, and use them. Pick something and make it a daily routine. Because what's going to happen is maybe it's going to be summertime and you're going to have like 2 or 3 days that you're feeling great and you're around friends and you're doing some cool things and you're like, man, this is great. Yeah, awesome. But then fast forward in another 3 days and your friends aren't going to be around. You're going to be back to work and, maybe you slam your finger in the car door and you break your pinky or whatever it is, and you're going to need to continually work on these skills, whether you feel good, moderate, or anything bad. You need to continue to work on them. You need to pay attention. I mean, I'm saying it's your choice, but if you're listening to this, you're probably listening for a reason. So I'm going to say these are things that you should be doing. Another thing that has come up throughout this whole thing is mindfulness. Learning to be in control of your mind instead of, letting your mind be in control of you. And, be the captain of your ship and steer it the way you want to steer it. Another thing, radical acceptance is big. And I think being able to, or just not even being able to, just making the decision to say, what this moment right now sucks, and I'm pissed off, or I'm hurt, or I'm sad, or whatever it is. Just accept the moment, accept whatever it is. If you can tolerate it, even for what it, if it's whatever is happening around you, if you can tolerate it for 5 minutes, and then you can at least figure out a strategy to get out of that situation, or just keep in mind that situation is not good for you. So maybe next time don't go that route, or don't use that technique, or don't go to that certain place that may bring back some bad memories. And don't forget about the
self-smoothing. Wow.
Don't forget about the self-smoothing.
Self-smoothing means waxing.
Yeah. Waxing.
And not waxing poetic. We're talking about waxing that hairy chest of yours.
Like wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah.
Daniel son,
wax on. So, yeah, those are some key points, I guess, to take from this. And just remember that we have emotions for a reason, and that it's okay to feel them. It's okay to let them flow, but you don't want to hang on to certain ones and treat it as if the rest of your life is going to be about that single emotion that you're feeling at that moment in time.
That actually brought up something. Tim kind of sparked something in me, and there's a very famous interview with Bruce Lee where he says, "Be like water," and it's real that if you dam water up and water becomes stagnant, it becomes diseased. And if you don't let your mind flow and your emotions flow, they can get backed up, and they become disease. They become cancer. They become
trauma.
We store trauma. There's been a lot of studies that have been done that we store trauma in our bodies. And with the work that I'm doing on myself, I can tell that I've probably stored all my trauma in my shoulders, because I can tell I actually physically have to mindfully keep my shoulders down, or else I hunch up like a cobra. It's almost like that, and it's like one of those things that you don't think about.
Right.
And it's very hard to correct. But again, if water becomes stagnant, just look at like your bird feeder outside, or your bird bath, I should say. And if you leave water in that and you don't either clean it or move it around or dump
Could
it
have
out.
bird poop in it.
That's right. You don't want bird poop in your water, man.
Bird poop. So you don't want bird poop in your
you don't want bird poop in your water, man.
life.
That's
you don't
right.
want bird poop in your life. You don't
well,
want...
actually, dude, when we were away on vacation last summer, they always there's that thought
good luck,
that
right?
good luck, right?
Yeah.
So, the last couple of years on vacation, it's usually my wife, my daughter, and my in-laws, because they're only here like once a year. So we usually try to go to the ocean, since they live in Middle America now, and they don't have any water around them, and they're in the flats out there and in Middle America somewhere. We always go to the ocean, whether it be, Maine or Rhode Island. And we were in Massachusetts last year in Gloucester, and we were walking on the beach. And
wait, where were you?
Gloucester.
All right, that's just crazy, because it's crazy. All right, go ahead.
And we were on the beach, and my poor mother-in-law is an awesome person. And her and I talk a lot about these issues, because she has anxiety through the roof.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, really bad. And so she knows how it is. So her and I have had some
Very
good
cool
conversations over the last couple weeks, just about stuff going on in my life and in our lives together, because all of us, there's some stuff going on, health stuff that, we've got to deal with. And a bird shit on her head and on her sweatshirt, and it was the craziest thing ever. A gull just came flying down, and she was like, it was just crazy. It was, and then we looked at each other, and we were like, we better play whatever lottery there was and I don't think we did.
Well, but, you know what though? Sometimes the universe acts in mysterious ways, and that could have been something.
It never acts in a mysterious. Well, it's mysterious to us,
right?
But it's never in a way that you're not supposed to listen to, and it's so easy not to listen.
Oh, it's
so easy to just ignore it. I'll ignore it. And then,
if you said something to me 4 or 5 years ago about the universe, I'd be like, take a hike. Like, what are you, wacko? Get away from me.
Well, yeah, it sounds really hippie, it sounds really like, it does. It sounds really Haight-Ashbury, kind of, but it's.
I've witnessed things.
Yeah.
I mean, even with us.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, you want to talk about paths, parallel paths, and all of a sudden, like
this was it. I mean,
the funny thing is that
universe, thank you.
When Tim and I ran into each other, it's been like 2 years now, right? Since. At least, right? Because we started planning this, and it took us a while to get it going.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the look on Tim's face when I came around the corner in Whole Foods, and you were standing there, and I could tell on the look in your face you didn't know how I was going to react. And then I know that I don't have a poker face when it comes to a lot of things, unless I'm playing poker. But I'm sure it was probably written on my face that you were proud that I was like, okay, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I knew I had actually thought 2 weeks prior to running into you that I saw you on your bike going to the bank. And I kept saying to the universe that if I run into Tim, I said him and I will have a conversation, and whatever like ridiculous shit was in between us was completely probably both made up and unfortunately, Tim and I spent a lot of time together. Tim and I worked together for a long time, and we worked together, and unfortunately, fortunately I got out. Some other people got out, and not the way it should have been. And unfortunately Tim is still riding the ship, but we worked in a place that has a very, very, very negative culture, and when you already have personal issues and you're just a machine that isn't supposed to break down, that isn't supposed to have emotions, that isn't supposed to be anything almost human, because you are literally just there to run until the robot blows.
You're literally just a small cog that just is
you're
supposed
just
to just stay where you are and do it, and not question.
Right. And that culture, with a combination of just negative self-talk, negative energy, which is just abundant, created some rifts in my personal life, and it
definitely mine for
and
sure.
For yours also. It creates rifts in everybody's life.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it's amazing to, hear some of the stories now, and then, live some of this in real time hell. It's completely different.
It's funny because you were just saying how we spent a lot of time together and stuff, and just recently with your little visit to the hospital, your visit to the hospital kind of brought back some thoughts on, I don't know if it was my very first, but it was the first that I can think of. You were there, not exactly there at the moment I had a panic attack, but afterwards at the hospital.
Oh yeah, dude, I'll never forget that. And
I didn't know at the time what...
I've kicked myself in the ass over and over again.
But did you know, offense, like, stuff like that back then?
No,
like, I didn't know.
I could read the energy in the room, and I know from what you've told me about your relationship, and I could tell that if I went in, it would end one way, and if your mom went in, it would end a different way.
Yeah.
And I had for a long time, I kind of blamed myself and said I should have went in with them, because at the time it probably would have been better for you to have somebody that wasn't related to you than have somebody that was related to you. Yeah,
you're probably right, but it was just funny because that's what I thought of. I thought of that moment, and I remember the EMT trying to like wrench my hand open because I was clenching my fists, and he couldn't even, like, this is a big dude, and he was like trying to open my hand up, and he couldn't even do it.
Wow. Oh, dude, I'll never forget getting that phone call and rushing out of the house, and I think I actually made it halfway to your house before I got a phone call saying that you had already been taken there.
Oh, at the hospital?
Yeah, because I made a phone call to a good friend of mine who happens to be a dispatcher for one of the local police departments, and asked him if he could find out some information for me. And when he did, somebody actually called me and said, "Hey, we're taking your friend here, so if you want to meet us there, he'll be there when you get there." So that's where I was, and it's one of those. I never regretted for a day showing up there at all, and I never would, because again, man, you're one of my best friends. We've known each other a long time.
Yeah, we have.
We knew each other back in the day when you worked at Music Shack.
Yeah.
and you were the skinsman for Section 8. I am no one.
And you were the medallion god.
I was the medallion god of Freak Nation. Woo! Yes. Is that a medallion?
Is that a medallion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can find those pictures online.
So yeah, that was a cool little story that it just kind of popped in my head the other day, because I was like, when I was just putting things together with you, and I was like, I wonder if he had a bad panic attack, and his anxiety got to him. And
I did have a wicked panic attack, and I saw the cardiologist recently and talked about it, and there is something that's happened to my heart in the past. How bad it is, they don't know, because now they're kind of going from now baseline, but it's in good shape. We're doing I'm about to have a calcium score, so we know what's in there, but other than that,
so maybe that anxiety attack was brought to you to say, hey, you might need to check this out.
It's all been brought to me.
It's
all been brought to me. And the funny thing is that we're talking about the universe. I know we're supposed to be wrapping up DBT, but we really are, because
but we're talking about radical acceptance.
Right. This is radical acceptance. And what your physical body is telling you, you need to pay attention to. And I will say this, I've had, for some reason, and I can't pinpoint it exactly, for the longest time I was listening to this visualization meditation subliminal thing about learning how to contact your spirit guides. And it was this really cool visualization that you can find on Spotify, and I'll look it up next time, and so you guys can find out what it is.
Yeah, cool.
And I had been practicing it for about 2-3 weeks, and every time I would sit down every morning for 20 minutes, I would just put this on, and I would slowly get more of a picture. And I kept asking, I want to know who my muse is. Muses, if you've read anything in the last 10 years, you've heard of Stephen Pressfield. Stephen Pressfield wrote an amazing book called The War of Art. And he talks about how most of us we've as human beings that want to do anything of value to anything, whether it be music, art, starting a nonprofit, losing 50 pounds, whatever, you are going to face more resistance the closer you get to your goals. You're going to face resistance just starting the goals, which is why, like, people always say, oh, I'm going to start a diet program on the first of the year, and by the time January 17th rolls around, 85% of the people that signed up for gym memberships don't show up. We all face it. All of us do. And he talks a lot about the muses, and I had asked the universe for the name of my muse, and I find out what it is, and I was like, okay, and I know this must be because there have been a lot of things happening in my universe, art-wise, creative-wise, that I give Reezy, that's my muse, and you guys can tell me I'm nuts all you want. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. It's mine. You have it too, so get in touch with it and find out your name, and I won't make fun of yours either. And it got off on the tangent, but during one of these meditations in like the last 5 months, something kept coming up about maybe my thyroid's acting up. And the recent visit to the hospital showed I actually have a nodule on my thyroid. So I'm having that checked out. And I have a nodule on the side of my neck too that I kind of, I was told about, I think, a couple of years ago, and I kind of forgot about, because I've been like, there's definitely been some issue. Like, my body is definitely fighting me in a lot of ways right now. So I'm trying to keep that shit together without coming apart at the seams, man. But but that radical acceptance is a part of that, is that I've created a lot of these diseases myself. Your heart doesn't get calcium in it because you've eaten your fruits and vegetables, man. It's
even
it's all
beyond
reciprocal.
that, I mean, the stress.
Well, stress,
inflammation causes havoc.
Yes, and stress causes all kinds of inflammation, and then all of the reactions to stress, self-medicating, not sleeping, not eating, and I've never had as many problems sleeping as I have in the last, I say 3-4 years. I don't sleep a full night. Like, I wake up 3-4 times. It's very hard for me to get comfortable sleeping because I have neck and back problems that just don't let up. And I'm not here to bitch to everybody. It was just like, it's amazing how like these things kind of surface. And the reason why we talk about it is because your physical body is telling your mental body something that you need to pay attention to. And you have to have radical acceptance, and you have to learn how to manage and build some distress tolerance.
Sure.
And
so to wrap that little thing up, I mean, if you're looking for, or if you feel that you need better ways to cope, these 4 components of DBT, these 4 modules that we discussed, can help. I'm not like a spokesperson. I'm not getting paid to say this. I'm an average dude that was in a deep, deep hole. And I had no ways of coping. I mean, I had a few negative ways, I guess, so I shouldn't say no ways, but I had some negative ways to cope that were not working for me. And I learned DBT. I learned about the modules, and it's helped me. Can say that without a flinch that it's helped me.
Will you share one of those negative things so people can know a little bit more about you?
Yeah, it was mostly it came out in anger because, and now I can say this because I didn't know it then, but if you go back to, let's say, a 2-year-old that is not able to speak yet or form any kind of verbalization with you, they act out. They may cry, they may scream. They're not in pain. They're trying to communicate.
Right.
They're saying, I want some more milk. I want this or I want that. And they're pissed off because they can't stand fully for 30 minutes or whatever. And they're verbalizing it to you in a different way. And that's kind of what I was doing.
Now
by lashing out. I was pissed off, but I couldn't say to myself, why am I pissed off? I would just be pissed and accept it.
Have you been able to ask yourself why you're pissed off? Like,
yes.
Are you starting to uncover?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying...
and trust me, I can see it. Like, I like when we came back together a couple years ago, and just that, 15-minute conversation that led to lunch at Chili's, and Chili's is our meeting spot, man. In Colony, in New York, if you're in the capital region. And we're not name dropping, we're just trying to make you guys
just telling
part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I could tell that you had done some major soul searching, and you had been on a journey.
Funny because at that point, I didn't learn these skills yet, though. I thought I was doing well in life and doing I was learning some stuff that is similar to this, but I really just would read it and kind of go.
That was pre outpatient, right?
Yeah.
Or pre-inpatient, I mean,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I remember, because I remember after running into you, we kind of said, hey, let's hook up and
mm-hmm.
talk about what we're doing, and because
or
talk about doing something in the future. And maybe we hadn't even talked about...
Maybe it was over. It had to have been over 2 years. It had to be like 3 years then, maybe.
Maybe it was.
I don't remember. Time is time. It happened. That's all that really matters.
All that matters is we came together.
Yeah.
And we started doing this.
Yeah. And as I was saying, this skill set, these techniques that I learned, have hands down have helped me. Not only helped me in ways of coping, but of viewing things and of I guess living life really, and just going, I can look back and go on some of these things that I may have done or maybe still do, and sometimes I catch myself in traffic if I get a little escalated, or I'm at work and I get irritated, whatever it may be. I can usually catch myself and go and take a step back, and just go, well, this is work. It sucks. I know it sucks. I know driving to work, it's gonna suck. So it's like not a surprise. Like, okay, just it's going to be one of those days, and when the time comes, I'm punching out and I'm going home, and then that part of the day is over, and see you later.
Good. I wish I that's a skill I'm still working on. Don't
get me wrong. I still fumble. There's still days where, I trip.
Dude, we all drop the ball once in a while. We all play a missed note. You know what I mean? We all miss a chord. We all
break a string.
We all break a string. We all step on the chord and pull it out of the jack and, break a stick and all that stuff, man. You can't be too hard on yourself, though.
No, you're right. You're right.
Because you, my brother, you are loved.
You are loved.
You are.
So that's our putting it all together, putting it all together.
Putting it all together. Absolutely. Putting it all together.
So what we're doing here is putting it all together.
Putting it all together. I got to write that down.
I did. It's right there.
I like you. I knew I had you for a reason. I knew I had you as a co-host for a reason.
So thank you for listening, and I think I can speak for both of us and say, we hope that you not only enjoyed these modules and this whole self-care September, but you really take something from it, whatever it is. Take one thing, and doing something is better than doing nothing. So with that being said,
don't overwhelm yourself.
Don't overwhelm yourself,
because you know what, you have every day to do this. And the whole idea is that you find the strength to get through the day that you're in. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. And it's way easier said than done, but it's an art worth learning to practice. And thank you for joining us for Self-Care September. And our series on DBT. We're going to do more of these little module type things as we learn stuff. You're going to learn, because the way you retain stuff is by passing it on. And that's how you let go of stuff also, is by teaching somebody else. And that's the only way that you can make more room in your cup, is by letting what you've filled it up with come out. Because if you got a filled glass, man, you can't put any more water in it. Timothy, as always, my brother, thank you.
Thank you, Will.
So until next week, don't forget, like the podcast. You can hear it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple. We're working on some other stuff.
Share it.
Like it. Share it, like it. Throw us some stars.
Sniff
man.
it.
Yeah, sniff it. It's like a scratch and sniff
Pet
sticker. So until next week,
be well.
Be safe. Be above.
Above Ground Podcast is in no way intended to be a substitute for professional help in any manner or degree. We are not therapists, doctors, or professionals in the medical field. These are the opinions and experiences of two individuals just like you, our peers, who live with mental illness and all of its conditions. If you or anyone you know are experiencing a mental health crisis, please go to your nearest emergency room, call 911, or you can call the National Suicide Hotline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. Be well, be safe, be above.
Wow. So long ago, man, 2019. That was episode 238 of Above Ground Podcast. Thank you so much for checking in and listening to this reissue. This ends the Dialectical Behavioral Therapy series that we did in 2019 between end of September and beginning of October, over 7 weeks. But yes, Above Ground Podcast is ending, and it is bittersweet. I'm so happy that Timmy is going on with his new thing, the Pieces of Wellness podcast. And I just want to say, first off, thank you to everyone out there who has listened every week and literally has liked, followed, friended, shared, and reviewed the podcast. Thank you to everyone that has allowed us to hold space for them at all the events that we've been at over the last 4.5 years, man, whether it's any of the upstate punk rock flea markets or Nipper Fests or the Out of the Darkness walks for Rita or any of the other events, the mental health awareness event for NAMI and stuff, and just the things that we've been involved in. Thank you so much. I am going into self-care mode. The end of 2023 has unfortunately given me some challenges that I didn't expect, and they're still unresolved going into the beginning of 2024, and I really need to take all of my energy and focus on those things because they are health related and things. So I need to focus on some stuff before I get back out here and fight the good fight again. I'm so glad that Tim is going on with the Pieces of Wellness podcast, and Jordan and Karen are going to be involved. But I wanted to just give a big shout outs to some people first. I want to say thank you to Julie and Jordan for being the voice of our disclaimers, and Jordan being now part of the Pieces of Wellness podcast, man. It makes a whole lot. It's going to be awesome. Also, I want to thank Kevin Maloney for his musical contribution for the last, I don't know how many episodes. It's funny to hear like an episode that we first produced versus an episode that just came out recently, and the changes that we've made over the time. But thank you to Kevin Maloney for his talent, and I still say he's one of the most underrated guitar players, songwriters that we have in the 518, man. So thank you. I want to thank Mike Langone and having us for upstate punk rock flea markets, pretty much all of them, and I appreciate that very much. And Mike is such a good guy, and Mike does good work as the singer in Black Belt Jones and in his day gig, and he's an awesome dude. And I want to thank Nippertown for hosting the podcast up until episode 230. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody just that's been around, man. Big, huge shout out and thank you to Will Hallam. Will allowed Tim and I to come to his home studio and record our conversations together. So it kind of took pressure off me of engineering while I was trying to concentrate on the conversation. Will opened up his house, got to know his family. I can't thank you enough for that, man. I'm going to miss coming up to the Hallam Halls, man. It's always fun, and I appreciate so much you taking that pressure off of me. I appreciate it. And last, of course, but not least, man, TPP. I'm so glad that he's going on and doing his own thing, man. I'm looking forward to hearing it. As far as the stuff goes with Above Ground Podcast, first of all, TPP, thank you for your contributions to this show, man. TPP kept a steady calendar for us, kept everybody involved in Instagram and involved in our social medias, man, and had a lot of ideas and made a lot of this show work in aspects that I just couldn't devote a lot of time to, and I appreciate that very much. I am going to be keeping the Above Ground Podcast Facebook page, so you will be able to still get all the episodes for Above Ground Podcast. All 238 of them will be available to you at abovegroundpodcast.net. That is not going anywhere. So you can still check out your episodes. If you were part of the show, you can still go find your episodes. And I'm still going to pop on because I may be taking a rest, but I ain't going anywhere. I am coming back to fight the good fight when I'm ready to, and I will be back to have a new conversation for a new day. So until then, I can't say thank you enough. And for the very last time, get well, be safe, stay above.